right, so we're getting into 12.8 and 12.9, and we're going to be reviewing a little bit of this radius center point circle equation first. Right, so yesterday we derived this in 12.7. 12.8, we're going to put it to use a little bit more. Right, so we learned yesterday that the left-hand side of the equation is the radius, and these two terms are the change in x and the change in y squared, and this is all derived from a right triangle, kind of like getting spun around inside the circle. Okay, if you can look inside, look at 12.7, you'll see that. So if I take and figure out what my h and k is from this, I got to figure out what my center point is, right? So my center point values here, center point values, my x value is 1, 2, 3, 4. That's my x value, and my y value is 2. This is a 2, 4 circle, right? And I can count my radius. I'll just go right up. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my radius here is 5. Radius equals 5. All right, so this isn't exactly, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a little bit more than 5 down here. It looked like it was going to print better when I had it on Excel, but it didn't print exactly perfect. So let's imagine this little part doesn't exist. Okay? So this is a radius of 5 all the way around. Anyway, so to write my equation here, my radius, let's see, I'll keep radius blue, I guess. My radius is 5 squared equals, and then I have my parenthetical x and y's, right, and it's just going to be x, y, and then it's going to be minus 4. If that was a negative value, it would be plus 4, but it's not. It's a negative value. And then plus, and then minus, minus 2. Minus 2. So that's the equation for this. So my next question, next thing I want to introduce is first I would say, so what is the purpose of this, right? Of just an equation in general. Well, an equation is also kind of known as a function. And I can rearrange this equation if I know. Right now I have, like, if I didn't know the radius, right? Radius could be the variable, right? That's one of the things that can change of a circle is the radius. The center point can change, right? But if I knew the center point and I knew the radius, and these points here could change. Right? So if I knew the x or I knew the y, I could rearrange the equation for y or x. I could put the other variable in, and it would spit out the value or the point for its counterpart. Right? So if I knew x, I could put in x to the equation if it was set to solve for y, and it would give me my y value, and vice versa. Okay, so that's kind of like what a function does, right? But there are some limitations to that, right? So if I had, say for instance, I had let's see, where's this? I had this line here, this diameter. Here's what I'm using, and you can see that I can, if I was going to use any number on the y-axis, from infinity, you can't see that at all, from infinity, negative infinity to positive infinity, right? I'm going to put a value of yn on my y, along my y-axis. Zoom out a little bit, right? And I'll take, say for instance, y equals, we'll say y equals, the line y equals, say y equals the value of this line here, y equals this line. Does that even leave a mark? This this line here. So y equals, that's what, 4? Y equals 4. So if y equals 4, then my x values are going to be equal to, let's see, x values are going to be equal to whatever this is and whatever this value of x is. Okay? So that's if y equals 4, my x value would be equal to this, and whatever that value of x is, all on my x-axis. Okay? And then, but if I plugged in y equals, we'll say y equals, here, we'll say y equals this value, you can't see that, y equals this value, y equals negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, y equals negative 6, there's no value for x that intercepts that line. There's no value for x. That's because y equals 6 is out of this function's range. Right? It's out of its range. So this function's range, so range is for any value of y inputted into the equation. This is, man, you can't see that at all. Any function for this value. That's a little better. Where's my green stuff? A little more over here. How about this? There we go. Any function. If I put in an x, if I put in a y value, and it returns an x, it's within range. Right? It gives me a real number. This is range. R A N G E. G, this is the range. This green line is the range. Okay. Now, same thing goes with the x value. If I put in, say x equals, I don't know, say x equals this value here. Say x equals this value here, and bring my markers. Do that. This one will pop. All right, so x equals this one here. We'll say this equals x. All right, you can see that one. So x equals, I guess, what is that? 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. X equals 8. Then y will return. Y will return as, let's see, y would return as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Y would return as 7, and over here it's like, looks like 1, right? So that means that there is a real number that falls within this one's that x will return for. This is called the domain. That's called the domain, right? So x is domain, y is range. Okay, so but if I put in like a x equals like 20 or something, it would come back as invalid or undefined, right? Because in this one particular, it would end up giving me like a square root of a negative number if I solve for it, because I can't take the square root of a negative number. That's an imaginary number. But anyway, so that's range and domain. Okay, so let's get back to this stuff here. So for this one, if I want to figure out the range and domain, it's pretty. I can look at it on paper here, I can figure out that my range, right, that my center point is here, and my domain is just my left and right value, my x value, maximum and minimum dimension of my circle. Right? It's my diameter, right, in the x direction, which is my center point plus my radius, and my center point minus my radius. Right? So my center point is 4. Center point is 4, so it's going to be 4 plus 5 and 4 minus 5. Right? So it's going to be 4 minus 5 is going to be negative 1, which it is. It's negative 1, and 4 plus 5 is going to be 9, which that's my domain. The way I write that is negative 1 x is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 9. Okay, that's my domain. My range is going to be, again, starts at 2. It's going to go, my radius is going to go plus my radius and minus my radius. Right, so it's going to be 2 minus 5. So it's going to be negative 3. So negative 3. And then my y, and 2 plus 5. So it's going to be 7. So that's so I got 7 up here. And I got 2 minus 5 is 3. Yeah, it's negative 3. Negative 3. Right, so that's the intuitive way to kind of look at it right here. Okay. Now I could solve it for here, right? If I wanted to say, let's see, x, let's just do it for this one, right? X minus 4 squared equals 5 squared, which is 25. Erase that squared. Okay, and then I'm going to take the square root of both sides, so it's going to be x minus 4 equals plus or minus 5. Hey, there's my radius. Okay, and then it's going to be x equals 4 plus or minus 5. Hey, look at that. That is where that comes from, right? It's 4 plus or minus 5. Right, so that's where that comes from. So, anyway, that's kind of why the negative is in front of h and k, right? That's mathematically how it looks. This has got to go on the other side of the equation. When you're solving for x, you have to go on the other side of the equation. Anyway, so hopefully that looks like it makes sense. Okay, so now let's take a look at if this would have to get changed into a quadratic equation or quadratic form or general form, because the state of Florida says you need to know that. Okay, so in order to do that, I need to take each one of these polynomials and I need to square them. So this is x minus 4 times x minus 4, and this is x minus 2 times x minus 2, and I remember having to FOIL two things together. Oh, we're not going to FOIL. We're going to just square these things together using a method that I learned. I'm sure many other people have learned too. Okay, so x minus 4, I'm going to use orange for my x's. X minus 4 squared, you use this method. Right? You square the first term, x squared. Okay, then you double the second term, and then you multiply by the first term. So it's going to be negative 8 times x squared. Sorry, negative 8 times x. So negative 8 times x is negative 8x, and you square the last term. So it's going to be negative 4 squared, which is plus 16. Okay, another way I've seen it done is like this. I've seen people do like this box thing, minus 4, which if you're a visual person, maybe this works for you. These are the two things you're multiplying together, so x times x is x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. And negative 4 times negative 4 is a positive 14, and you add all these together, and that's what you get. Okay, it's a little longer. This is a matrix kinda, and if that works for you, that's great. I like this term, it's a little bit shorter. Okay. Anyway, so then you're gonna add, and I'm gonna be adding my y term, which is y minus 2 squared. Right, so it's gonna be my first term squared, my second term doubled, which is negative 4y times my first term, so negative 4 times my first term, which is negative 4y, and then my last term squared, which is negative 2 squared, which is plus 4. And this is all going to be equal to 25. So 5 squared, which is 25. And I'm going to turn these into blue. I'm going to turn these into blue because these are now belong to the constant family. Okay, so now I'm going to rewrite these in the right order and add like terms. So as x squared plus y squared minus 8x plus 16 or minus 4y minus 4y, and then it's going to be, let's add all these constants up all at once. Right, so 16 plus 4 is 20. And we got 25 on that side. We're going to move it over here, so it's going to be minus 25. So it's going to be 20 minus 25. So it's going to be negative 5. And over here is a 0. All right, so that's going to be in standard terms. Okay, so that is how you do that. But from this one, you really can't pick any good information of the circle out. But that's how you convert it in from center radius form into standard form. Okay, so here's an example from our homework, not a practice book. So you're not going to find this in your practice book. I have my x term, I have my y term, and I have my radius, and it has the squared superscript, so I don't have to do anything with it. So I can pull off, before I rewrite this in general terms, I'm going to pull some data from here. My radius is 9, because it's in square terms. My diameter is, my radius equals 9, therefore my diameter equals 18. 18 equals diameter. Okay, and then I'm going to pull, so I'm going to put my 9 right here, and my 9 here for my range and domain. And my x value is going to be negative of that, so it's going to be negative 3. And my y value is going to be negative of that, so it's going to be negative 4. All right, so negative 4 and negative 3. Okay, so from here I can go 9 minus 3 is going to be, 3 minus 9 is going to be negative 12, and then 3 plus 9 is going to be 6. Okay, and then I'm going to have, forgot a negative sign there. All right, so 4 minus 9 is going to be negative 13, and then 4 plus 9, negative 4 plus 9 is going to be 5 plus 5. So there's my domain and my range, my radius, center point. So that's how I figured all that stuff out, because it was in radius center point form. Center point radius form, whatever way you want to say it. All right, so now I'm going to rewrite this in general form. Okay, so it's going to be x first term squared plus second term doubled and multiplied by the first term, so 6x. Then the second term second term squared. Okay, then it's going to be again first term squared plus second term doubled and multiplied by the first term, plus 4y, oh no, 8y, and then second term squared plus 16y equals 81. There should be a y there. Where did my eraser go? There shouldn't be a y in the blue. There we go. That's 18y. All right. Now I'm going to rewrite it and add like terms. So x squared plus y squared plus 6x plus 8y. 9 plus 16 is 25. Just real quick. 9 plus 15 is 25. No, 24. I'm glad I did that. Minus 81 equals 57. Negative 57. Negative 57. That's going to equal 0. So that is how you put that in general terms. I'm going to check it and get back to you if there's any issue. No, I said 57 when it should have been 56. I don't even know why I wrote 57. It's 56. So anyway, there's that one. Okay, so here is something similar but backwards. Okay, it gives us in general terms, and we got to write it in center radius form. So what's in general terms, we really can't pull anything out except for maybe like in this one. There's no x term, so we know x is 0, right? But in here, that's not the case for this one. Okay, what if I zoom in? That makes it too hard to read. Okay, so anyway, so we gotta rewrite this a little bit better. Let's put this in a different format. All right, so I'm gonna rewrite this as x squared minus 2x, right? And then get a little gap there, and then plus y squared minus 6y equals, get that blue, equals negative 6. Okay, now we gotta do this thing called completing the square. We gotta do it 2 times. Oops, I should have left a little gap. Leave a little gap here. Equals, should be blue, equals minus 6. All right, so what they did is they gave us, quadratic equation with all the constants combined, and they need to get those constants back so that we can put these back in polynomial squared forms and get our center point and our radius back. Okay. So anyway, it sounds like it might be difficult, but it's actually not. There's a process for it. Okay. Well, in any polynomial, it's going to be a positive, right? Because of the process we're getting ready to do. So you can go ahead and put a plus sign there, and I don't know why I used orange. It's going to be a constant, right? So we're going to put a blue plus sign next. Just be confident that's going to be blue. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take half of the constant of the second term, okay, of the variable term, the single variable term. It doesn't have a square term. It's the one exponent term, okay, and then we're going to square it. Okay, so half of negative 2 is negative 1, squared is 1, so it's going to be plus 1. We're just using the constant, we're not using the x, okay, and now then we're going to take, so this one would be half of 6, negative 6 is negative 3, and we're going to take 9, we're going to square it. When you square something, you always have something nice. You have a nice something that you can take the square root of. Okay, but we added a 1 and we added a 9. And this should be blue to that side. Right. So now our equation is unbalanced. Right. It's 10 heavier on this side. So we have to add a 1, we have to add a 9 on that side of the equation to balance it out. Right? If this was a scale, this side of the scale would be heavier than this side of the scale. So what you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. Okay? So anyway, now we can do some stuff with our orange polynomial and our green polynomial, or quadratic equation. Turn it into a polynomial squared. All right? So we're going to convert this value and this value. We're going to just change this into polynomials squared. Okay, so our x and our y's. Okay, they both start with negatives. So when we have negatives in there, it's going to be a negative. Okay, and then we take the square root of that thing. Square root of 1 is 1. Why does that just be orange? Square root of 1 is 1. And the square root of 9 is 9. Oh, sorry, it's 3. Okay, and we're going to add all this stuff together. Negative 6 plus 1 is negative 5. Or sorry, is negative 5. Let me do it on a calculator, so I don't want to mess it up. Alright, so 6 negative plus 1 plus 9 equals 4. That's a nice. So this is 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So this is 2 squared. Because 2 squared equals 4. This is true. Okay, so that is my equation. Okay, now that's something I can use. Now I can check this. I can reverse do this and just check it. X squared is x squared. Double this and add it and multiply by that, which is 2x. Then square the second term. That checks. Okay, I can square the first term. That's x squared. Double the second term and add it and multiply by the first term. That's 6x. Okay, or 6y, excuse me, and then I can square the third term, the second term, and I get the third term. That's okay. That checks out. Okay, now I can go from here and get everything I need to go from here. And you guys know how to do that from here on out. So this is 2, this is 4, so this is radius times 2, which is 4. My center point now is going to be 1 and 3, right? And so my whatever my range and domain are, it's going to be plus or minus my radius, plus or minus my radius. Domain is dealing with x's, so it's 1. So my x greater than, less than 1. And then my y greater than, I got 3. Okay, so I put 3 here. Alright, so it's going to be 1 minus 2 is negative 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. That's my domain. And then 3 minus 2 is 1. 3 plus 2 is 5. And there is everything that I need for that one. I hope that helps. Let's plot it, I guess. Let's plot it on one of these here. Okay, so we're going to plot this thing. Okay, I'm going to plot it using just this. Alright, so I know that my x value is going to be 1. Oh, I got it plotted on here. It's going to be my x value. I plot it here. My x value is 1, and my y value is 3. Because it's negative 1 and 3. Negative 1 is 1 and 3. Okay, it has a radius of 2. So, radius of 2. My range is going to be here, 2 this way, and 2 this way. That's my range. That's the extent of my domain. That's my domain. My My range is going to be up and down. My y values, 2 and 2. That's going to be the extent of my y values. So I can kind of visualize a circle here. It's kind of like halfway in between each one of these. Here I can also use a compass. I wonder if this compass is small enough. Let's see if this compass is small enough. Yeah, this compass could work. Okay, so I'll take this compass here and do my best to keep it from walking on me. It's hard to do with small circles. Do one arc at a time. That's one arc. And then do this arc here. This arc here. Walked on me. Okay, so I'm just gonna pen and ink this thing in with my blue. Alright, so it's gonna be like 5, 5, 5, 5, and then just kind of like sketch. This would look like. Visualize. I could draw triangles and stuff and make it closer, but this is a rough circle, looking like that. So that's my rough circle with my range and my domain, excuse me, and my range. Range is green and domain is orange. I hope that helps you guys understand all this stuff.